That's crazy.
We are recording. Good.
Great. This November meeting of the Information Technology Advisory Commission to order. Jackie, welcome. We have a quorum. Jackie has
from the shores of Lake Champlain there.
approval. Jackie has approval from the chair for virtual participation due to medical reasons. Jackie, can you tell us from where you are participating?
I am not in Vermont. I am here in Arlington, Virginia at home.
Wonderful. Vermont is probably a little chilly at the moment.
Yes, it would be.
All right. We didn't get a chance to talk about it last time, but we've had two resignations. Unfortunately, both Miranda and Jared have developed conflicts in their lives that prevent them from participating on Wednesday nights. And so they have resigned their positions. So we're down to 11 members. We have 2 openings. Jared sent his note tonight. So the website hasn't been updated. But if you know anybody, we are open and have vacancies available. So that is the chair's update.
Adoption of minutes.
Yeah, well, public comment. We don't have any members of the public? Public comment? No. Okay. Adoption of the minutes. Frank sent out the notes that Jim wrote up about our meeting. Jackie sent some edits. I think there are no objections to the edits. Does anyone else have any edits? Then I will make a motion to adopt the minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed.
Speaking of minutes.
Yeah,
Someone take minutes.
that's what I was about to ask. Prescott, thank you. Scott will take the minutes for tonight. Going up for our agenda item. The document that I sent out. I want to spend most of our time discussing that. Going up on the screen, see, and we can edit together in real time. You'll note you'll note I made a few edits based on the feedback. I added some items in, so I'll go over it here in just a second. Just a second while I pull it up. There we go. Sorry for getting it out late, but I've got some, I just couldn't quite get to it. So notes to myself here. I rearranged the endorsement to be in priority order. So we endorse recommendations on digital equity. We also believe the comprehensive plan element should include goals for cost of access, network resilience, and economic development in addition to digital equity. And then added in the notes about the additional items. So recommend the board adopt policy goals that address a wider range of issues. Jim, we adopted your minutes before you got here. Thank you.
Okay.
As amended.
As amended.
Fair enough. We also recommend, or sorry, preference, stated as a preference, is to include these goals in the comprehensive plan update. A specific vehicle is less critical. I think that's where we're at. I think, sorry, Jackie, did you have a comment in the chat? I can.
Yes, I said I think comprehensive plan should be capitalized.
Thank you. Concur. So are we in agreement that it's our preference, but not absolutely critical to include those broader issues in the comprehensive plan update? And we can table that question for a second and talk about the goals that I've built out here. Ultimately, the statute here that we're referring to just talks about the provision of broadband, right? To provide broadband infrastructure that is sufficient to meet the current and future needs of residents and businesses. It doesn't talk about the broader issues that we all know are important and need to be addressed. So I think there's an argument to be made that says, well, it doesn't belong in the comprehensive plan because it's not actually talked about in the statute for the content. I don't want us to worry about that or figure that out. We're not municipal planning lawyers. That's kind of why I stated it as a preference. Everything up here was the same as last time. I added in this statement here, reiterating our prior recommendation to address a broader set of policy issues. Goal 1, effective information technology governance across the entire county enterprise. Goal 2, effective information technology service management across the entire enterprise. So governance is, talks about the rules of the road that everyone in the government has to follow, because we know we have this federated approach to IT in the county government. And then the service management piece being more of the kind of effective operations and execution of delivery of those services. Then we start to get more into the influencing what goes on outside the boundaries of the county government walls. Support for privacy is a fundamental civil right. Is something we've talked about a lot. Oh, yeah, Jackie.
Yes, a definition. When we say effective information technology service management, are we saying anything about what the systems should be? So I have come to believe that our system of systems is broken, and we need to have one that is a system of systems. This talks about service management, but not necessarily that we don't have enterprise-wide technology.
Yeah, so it's used in a general intent, but evocative of the information technology library, the ITIL service management framework. So it's encompassing, in my view, an intent of all of the things it takes to deliver a service to a customer, whether that is an end user inside the county government who has a laptop and needs applications on that laptop to do their job. It's delivery of service to constituents and businesses, citizens, full stack.
That's not addressing what I'm talking about. Maybe if we added infrastructure and information technology infrastructure and service management. So I'm concerned that right now we have, as we've talked about many times, a decentralized system, and we don't have an enterprise-wide technology system. And I'm talking about, the software and the interconnectivity of that software, not how we're managing what we have.
Yeah, so the intent, and maybe we can talk about wordsmithing for sure. The intent is that it's full stack inclusive of the infrastructure necessary to deliver those services and the management of those that infrastructure. So,
but since that's the biggest gap, I'd like it to be very clear.
taking a note. Let's walk through the other goals and see if we have comments on those as well. Goal 3, support for privacy as a fundamental civil right. Goal 4, embed community values of openness, transparency, privacy, and community engagement in digital service design and delivery. Goal 5, manage data as a strategic asset and retain public ownership of their value stream. And goal 6, prioritize and evaluate smart cities systems as infrastructure and municipal services. That's a direct result of our conversation last month and the professor's observation that many of those systems are presented as economic development, and they are not thought of as kind of baseline infrastructure that needs to be managed across the entire domain. Going back to the kind of the structure of the comprehensive plan elements, the assumption would be with these goals is that they are very high level strategic goals, and that there would be a breakdown of principles that further articulate how we achieve these goals, and then policies that go towards implementing those principles and goals. That's how some of the other comprehensive plan elements are structured. I don't think that we need to get that deep in our recommendations. I think we should stay at the goal level, but we can provide additional context of kind of what we're thinking about how we might achieve some of these goals. One, is there anything missing? Jackie's thrown out infrastructure. Is there anything else that we think might be missing?
What's the difference between openness and transparency?
Openness, when I wrote that, I was thinking about the use of open source frameworks and standards as opposed to proprietary black box solution. So we could probably wordsmith that a bit, but the idea of openness is more about that, and transparency is about being able to show what's happening inside of the systems and the processes to the public.
We've also made a distinction in our civic discussions between the open data and open government and transparency of transactions. So when we talk about openness and open data, we're talking about specifically the portal and access to data in a usable form, whereas in transparency, we're talking about whether there is information available about how things work.
But I agree that at least, generically, as it is stated there, no one is going to be able to distinguish between openness and transparency as stated. So if we want to express a different idea with regard to open data,
Perhaps an adjective before each of those words would help differentiate.
I'm actually hearing two concepts here. Perhaps, John, the way you were thinking of it in terms of openness was open source software, On one hand, versus what Jackie, I hear her saying, is the website being easy for users to get to and open in that context. Those are two entirely different concepts. So we may want to split them and put them where they may be more appropriate within the goals here.
So software openness and user transparency.
Well, if you're talking about software, say if you're really focusing on it being open source in nature, then we should use the term open source because that's what people
Right.
recognize. If on the other hand, we're talking about whether or not users, when they go to the site, say, yeah, I get it, that's not a transparency issue.
No, I'm not talking about user ability. I'm specifically talking about the open data portal and the fact that
Portal.
citizens can download data sets that are the data sets that can generate the analyses where you might have a view that's generated by the county, but if you have the data set, you can do your own analysis. So it's making our basic data sets available for downloading.
Yeah, and I think that would fall under the transparency and the community engagement value. Like the reason why we make data open and available is because we value transparency and community engagement. And we're able to make data open and available because we manage data as a strategic asset. So
Yeah, they're different.
yeah,
I think
so, but at the goal level, right? Like how we achieve an effective open data portal and why we do it and what we support it is kind of crosses a couple of these different goals.
Yeah, I just think the things that lend themselves to open data and downloading and portals are different than transparency of how things are done and what's posted. So, for example, there are lots of decisions that are made where, in theory, they're supposed to be posted so that the decision making is transparent, but they're not. And one of the reasons they're not is because, in theory, because managing the data is so difficult for our departments. So that's very different than them sharing the actual data sets. I mean, one is information, the other is data. Might be just information so it's how you access information versus how you access manageable data is different.
Yeah, I think the intent here is the goal is that these are the things we care about. These are what we value. These are the things we value. And
Right.
the goal is
These are broad values. So how about something like, information access,
Right.
transparency, privacy, and community engagement?
I'm just getting to the second use of the word community in that sentence. And I would suggest something like civic. Or citizen.
Yeah. Why do you feel like, or do you feel like transparency doesn't cover it as a value? Like, because Jackie, let's take how the real world works off the table for just a second. Remember, these are aspirational.
Yep.
Right. Transparency is the value that you're talking about, right? You want to support.
It's two things. Transparency is one value. Open data, as opposed to open source, is the other. I mean, one is to be able to get the data where you're talking about data sets, to be able to get the data so you can do your own analysis. The other one is about information, not data. And that is like to be able to use your systems to manage information in such a way that you can make it readily available. That might be decisions. That's not a data set. So I think having the list particularly because some of these terms are terms that are used in public advocacy. And it's good to, I don't think there's any harm in having more than one thing listed. We are absolutely advocating for open data, transparency, privacy, civic engagement. Each one of these things are things we're doing. I mean, I've been meeting with the manager on both open data and transparency in the context of good government. And they're separate things.
Sure. I tend to lump open data into open source, but I don't see any harm.
Yeah, and open source is a whole different deal.
Actually, I think I hear the distinction that Jack is making. We're talking open source versus the type of programming that you get as like a commons type of right to it versus open data because it's accessible. Those are two different concepts.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, those are different concepts.
And the open data portal, by definition, has the data in a platform that is downloadable and not proprietary. I mean, you don't have to have some specific program to be able to do it. It has multiple ways you can download the data and just.
Yep. Any other values that we think we should call out?
It just seems like open source and open data are like subset of transparency. So if we're gonna have open data, open source, then maybe transparency should be.
Yeah, I don't personally understand the open source, but I'm the one who said open data, and somebody else said, John said open source, and I guess they're each of these are individual things, and they're each goals.
Well, so I started with openness.
Right. And I was fine with that as a generic thing that could apply to both.
So,
Yeah, I'm used to
and
open
this is
source.
sort of
like
like question is whether
Quality or
transparency,
characteristic.
are open source and open data
So-
a subset of transparent?
So in a technology context, right?
Yes.
Openness is about non-proprietary solutions.
I mean, you're talking about community values.
Well, I'm part of this community, and one of my values is openness when it comes to technology
But
solutions.
you're not the community. I mean, community values, we're talking about broad, generic concepts.
And
That said, anything that you want to add, but I'd go for simplicity rather than, including an encyclopedia of things under community, under values.
But kind of frankly, by virtue of the fact we're having this discussion kind of underscores that openness in this context is a bit ambiguous. And I think to most of the readers, they're going to be going, I'm not sure what this is. So perhaps it needs a little bit more clarity.
Yeah.
To reword.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And open data we have a specific thing called an open data portal that had a subcommittee, a manager's committee assigned to it, appointed and assigned for several years on the policy for open data portal. So it's something where we've had considerable policy discussion. We have a specific location on our web that is the open data portal. So it's when we talk about that, and Civic Federation has a resolution they adopted which lists specific things they'd like to see added to the open data portal. So it's a very specific thing in Arlington.
So Jackie, if I could, a question, what you're saying is since this letter is directed to Libby Garvey, if we say open data, that's immediately going to mean something to her, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And this is the audience, we're saying, here's the goal, it's Libby Garvey. If she knows based on what you're telling us, the context of what that means and what you've described that it means, she's going to get that, right?
I think she will get that. I know the manager will. And some of this is about, when you get to the technical level, some of this is about how staff understands and explains this to the board as well.
Yeah, so I hear that it's ambiguous in this context, but if someone, not us, but if someone were to build this out and understand openness in the technology context in which we intend it, a principle might be written that something like this: to the maximum extent possible, the county will utilize open source and open standards technologies to improve interoperability and yada, yada, yada. At that point, I think the intent of the openness value would be clear.
Yeah, and I confess, I don't understand that at all.
Should we add some goal or anything about training and education, both for the county itself, but also residents, but also for the government? I mean, continuing to, this is the right place.
So I think for the county employees, that would be covered under goal 1 and goal 2, right? Like, in order to do
Right.
those things, you need high quality, well-trained staff to execute, right?
Question for Jackie, how about instead of openness in more common parlance, how about data accessibility? It's not part of you guys. I'm looking for other suggestions apart from openness that might convey more clearly what the point is.
Well, I'm happy with open source and open data, since that's what we call it. If you
Jack, to pick at it a little bit, why wouldn't goal 5 cover what you're talking about with the open data board?
because that's a whole different thing, and it's a very important different thing. That is, when we're doing contracting and we pay for data, we want to continue to own that data. And that is another thing that in my meetings with the manager, we brought up as a very specific thing that he promised to do that I don't believe has been done. And that is to change our contract so that when they develop data, we own it.
I have a couple typos.
Sure.
Paragraph above, address a broader set of policy issues, plural.
Yep.
And policy actions, plural, as discrete policy actions. So that gives you case agreement. Done.
So why can't you just
You
leave
said a
it
couple-
open source and open data
I literally meant to, yes.
and just take out that principle, which is explaining open source?
So Jack, I was just giving an example of how this might be less ambiguous in a broader policy document. This
Yeah,
is
that's only for one of those things.
just for the discussion.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's only less ambiguous for open source, not open data.
Yeah, no, I get it. I was just putting it up there for the purpose.
Okay, all right. I didn't get that.
What if the problem here is that the open source and open data aren't really values? What we need is
Yeah, that's true.
goal 7.
Well, open data, it is a value. Open source may not be, I don't know, but making data sets openly available is a value. I mean, that's things like if you have a budget system and the data is organized in such a way that it's accessible, that you can also download it. You don't just, it's just not, you can do your own analysis. You don't have to use the proprietary system for analyzing it because you can download it. So it is both of those things.
I like that. I think it may belong in goal 5. As part of the management of data as strategic.
Yeah, but this is ownership. That's ownership. This is not ownership.
So I think what we're talking about here is we want the county to support civic engagement through open government, right? Use technology to support civic engagement processes, right? This is one of the things actually in the uneven innovation, right? That, you know, being very parochial, it would be great if there was an AI minutes generator that we could turn on in Teams. I think there is one, so we didn't have to take minutes every meeting and they could be posted, right? These technologies should be harnessed. Technology should be harnessed to better facilitate civic engagement, including open data, open government, and participatory planning processes.
That's why I'm perfectly fine with just the values of openness, transparency, and then let us define what's in openness. But I think openness as a generic term is fine, and I do see it how it's different from transparent or private. Because we're not going to the level of trying to define exactly what we mean about privacy. You know, we could do a whole nother set of principles on privacy, but we're not. So I think this level is fine. Just add back in openness.
How's that?
Yeah, participatory planning process really has nothing to do with technology per se.
But it's a thing that we want them to support using technology.
Yeah.
But you're right, it belongs at the beginning of the sentence.
Yeah, that's fine.
But not limited to.
And you could even add your other open thing there. It's open data. You know, it is including open government, open data, and open sources. Those are all access things. I'm not totally sure personally, and it may be just a technology gap for me, in what you're intending with open source, as opposed to all these things that we have contract, you know, like the budget system is a contractor developed system. It has been developed so that you can download different data sets.
So open source is a specific set of freedoms when it comes to software, and Open Source Institute actually just published their first definition for open source AI models. And it's a thing.
I know it's a thing, and I know generally what the thing is. I'm just not sure. I mean, I do know what open source is, but I'm not sure what it is in this context of how that enhances the civic engagement. I mean,
It doesn't. It's not related to goal 7. I was presenting it as a community value preference for use of open source technologies because of the benefits that accrue to the public versus proprietary technologies where the benefits accrue more towards the owner of the proprietary intellectual property.
Right. Okay, so maybe that goes more under item 5.
Well, transparency, privacy, and civic engagement, right? I think the more compelling things that we're debating it so much, so it's clearly not a widely held or understood community value. But if we have civic engagement, then whatever values come through that civic engagement process will be appropriate.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as you're explaining the reason that you're mentioning open source, it sounded to me like that goes under goal 5. Because it's so that it is a method of retaining ownership, so by not having it in a proprietary system. So if we say we want our contracts, for example, to say that we own the data, we obviously want to own the data in a format that we can get at. It can't be that we have to go through the proprietary system to get it.
Yeah. Does goal 7 address your concern about open data?
Yes, as long as it says the word open data, I'm good with it.
How do other people feel about the edits?
Still in there, we figured out. So it was open government, so open government, open data.
Jackie, you want to talk about open government? It's not just about the data, right? It's about.
Well, open government includes things like transparency. So, we do have a problem of conflating goal 4 and goal 7 still. I mean, I was fine with just saying open as a value, which includes all these different open things. But open government is a value that is supported by having the technology that makes it possible. So, for example, this is one example that was given to the manager. For example, our zoning administrator is able to make decisions that change the zoning ordinance. And those decisions change the law. And you have 30 days to comment and 60 days, I guess 60 days for appeal, but nobody is notified. And so no one is able to appeal. And people have said, well, this is not open government. If we can get basically a decision that has the effect of law that is issued, but it's not notified of anyone, and there's no place you can look it up. And the answer to why that is like, we don't have the technology. In fact, they even have a place on the website that says we're going to post all of this here. And nothing has been added since May 2017. And it's like, we don't have the staff to manage this. Some people have said, well, if we had a decent chat, AI system, we could go around and get these things into more transparent, publications for people. I don't know if that's the solution, but if we're issuing decisions and they're not being posted because we don't have a technology system that's capable of doing that in a timely way, our technology is very much at fault. It's not managing information in a transparent way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty obvious if you have a legal things that legally affect and why is that, to go more, why is that not transparent? Because all the developers share that information. So they then all know that, but the citizens who are trying to protect the zoning in various cases don't. So the law has changed and they don't know it, but the developers do. It's not just, it's definitely on the list of uneven innovation.
So generally, things work better when the citizens can engage effectively with their government. And in order to do that, they need information. Open government is the idea that the government is open to scrutiny and engagement by the public and makes efforts to facilitate that.
Yes, to make information, to have an information system that makes the information available.
Goal 7, we're simply use technology to facilitate open government and open data.
Yes, to facilitate open data and open government.
Period.
So to take a broader view,
Yeah.
what we do here is neither of those things, but we want them to help this type of activity. All of the 50 some advisory commissions that constitute the formal Arlington way, right? There are aspects of civic engagement that go beyond open government and open data. All of the engagement with all the civic associations, right? And the programs that the county has to engage with the civic associations, the neighborhood.
Wouldn't that fall under goal 4? Isn't that a specification of goal 4, civic engagement?
So I
like stripping openness out of goal 4 because among other things, it's contradictory to privacy. And we're meaning it in a different sense.
Yeah, I like it better. I like it better. I thought about that.
So on the other hand, I am very, very, very much persuaded that we need to say something about open government and open data. So I like putting it in goals.
So I'm thinking about goal 4 as the things that the county does to deliver services to constituents, businesses, citizens, people that are.
Yeah, design and delivery. Yeah, I get that.
So, but the idea is that we want them to engage with the citizenry and the community as they go to design and deliver those.
Got it. It's in there.
It's in goal 4.
So
That's there. And the other is supporting for all those commissions and stuff. And all of the services that we're talking about, not just digital services, but all of the operations. That's the open government part. That is that better data management, better information management is a requirement in this day and age of complex things to be able to track and use information in an effective way. Even all of the commission stuff is not very accessible. I mean, if you were to, try to find all of our recommendations over time, it would be pretty difficult. And
yeah, let me jump in here. The difference between that, what you asked, right, goal 4 and goal 7, I look at goal 7 is more about people coming to the government to, petition for a redress of grievances, right? It's like,
no,
oh,
just for information.
Set of support, and I go straight to open government and open data.
I
I think that falls under that category.
so. You think
Use technology to facilitate open government and open data.
Yes.
Period.
I would actually put those in the reverse order. Open data being the smaller of the two.
I'm fine with that.
I'm just gonna stamp open data on the top.
Dancing on the head of the pin.
I appreciate that.
I think open data and open government are good, but there's other Maybe I can take the participatory planning processes out to some.
Well, and civic engagement is the first you need to.
But
But I understand you're trying to articulate something else that we need to use technology to facilitate citizen use of.
Yeah, and it's not just civic engagement, it's accountability. It's lots of other things. I mean,
Yeah, Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm also hearing you say that there's inadequate public notice of what the county is engaging in their decisions, right?
right, that's why I'm saying it's accountability. But that's definitely open government. So staff does lots of things which are operational, including making decisions that have direct impact on the public where their systems don't work very well. So, for example, another zoning example, when anyone wants to apply to change the zoning to build something huge, they have to file for a site plan, and this is like dozens of documents. They all get posted on the permit site. Well, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Sometimes when you do a search on the title, you get everything that's under it. Sometimes you don't. We just have so many broken data systems. It is hard. Unless you were in the weeds trying to deal with operations, you have no idea how broken our systems are.
well, we are specifically not in the weeds for operations here. This is.
I know. I'm just telling you, as someone who is in the weeds, as a citizen, even on issues of accountability.
Yeah, Jack, we get it. Our focus is policy recommendations, right?
I agree with you, but all I'm saying is, for all of these things, enterprise-wide, effective data systems is what is missing.
Well,
Now,
that's,
maybe the will is missing also, but the systems are not there, even if the will is.
well, that's goal 2
Yeah, let's goal 1 and goal 2.
and goal 1, yes.
Yes, and that was why I was saying we need to be clear that that's what we were talking about there. It's not just managing what we have. Because that goal 2 focuses on service management. And what I'm saying is we don't have the basic system of systems that you would expect in a 21st century enterprise.
Yeah, but what I care about is the service, not how the service gets delivered. Because how the service gets delivered changes rapidly. Right? Like,
I'm not talking about how the service gets delivered. I'm talking about the ability to have interconnected, interoperable systems. And if you don't have that, maybe that's a how, but if you're running off spreadsheets, it's not going to work.
I understand. But
That's what I mean when I say 20th century. Everybody does their own little contract. And some of them are kind of on the level of we do spreadsheets, and some of them are, in a database, and some of them are not, and some of them are proprietary and owned by someone else and therefore cannot be interconnected with some of the others. So you ask a question about an operation that goes across departments and you can't get an answer.
Yeah, Jackie, from a policy perspective, service management covers down on all of that, in my view.
It covers interconnectivity.
Covers all of it.
And interoperability.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
I'm also concerned that your point about somewhere in here, we should talk about training.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where. I'm not sure whether
Of
it
county
belongs
staff or public awareness.
public,
Yeah.
not public awareness, public training, which gets to the main recommendation of the broadband study, which is outreach, not just to close the digital divide
Right.
in a technical sense, but to enhance citizens' capacity
Be good digital citizens.
to improve their lives.
Right. Yeah.
Through digital technology. I'm not sure where that goes, but
I think-
raise what Frank said.
I think that's reasonable. Before we get off on that, Byron, you had a comment on the transparency open. Has the conversation at its kind of resolved your comment?
Yeah, so before we had the open data, open source, they just seemed to be a subset of transparency. So now when you move that out, those things can seem to be in the same categories.
All right. So I just want to get that in before we moved on to a new topic. Goal 8.
Frank?
Frank. Goal 8 is Frank.
Guess we're using a lot of ensuring.
Ensuring, you can't insure anything.
Let's use facilitating.
How about take the initiative to assure that all Arlington citizens receive
Promote.
the training?
That's
You know,
necessary.
remote works and you can use insure again.
Yeah. Right, we don't want to.
Actually,
Good word.
I hate insure. I was just trying to figure out how to remove it.
Ah,
I was gonna say it just effectively govern information technology and effectively manage service delivery.
Provide sufficient training and education for.
I mean, are we talking about actually training people, or are we talking more about like the public information campaigns they have for like traffic safety, where it's like, be a pal?
No, the first.
You want the government to actually.
Well,
train.
I took that was my main takeaway from the broadband. For those digital navigators.
That was where.
That's what I want to reference.
So
I like that concept.
I think that concept is great. I think we've already.
Where is it?
But with the digital promote digital equity and eliminate digital divide.
So at the top, we endorse the report's recommendations to address digital equity. So everything in that report about digital equity, we've double clicked on, we've stamped, we've given it a thumbs
Except
up.
the point we're focusing on right now is having the navigator or someone provide education, right?
Yeah, John is correct. It is in the report. I just wonder if we ought to highlight that particular
Yeah.
aspect of the report, and it can be done in that second paragraph to address digital equity, including
Especially the concept of digital navigators.
I'm okay with the specialist. That's my part. I would have said including, it's a little more neutral, but I'm happy with that. I would put the digital navigator concept in that opening sentence to the second paragraph somehow.
I like that concept as well.
Other folks want to speak for or against that?
Yeah. Keep it in that for a second.
I think if you're going to put it in that paragraph, it should be a separate sentence. Not, I mean, I think you're going to lose that the scope is too narrow by adding it there.
Yeah, I got it. I got that.
Fair point. Put it in a separate sentence right after it. Yeah, period. Then capital H, however, because that's an important point and deserves its own sentence. Oh man, you don't like starting a sentence with which is fine. You can float however wherever you.
And do you think the board is going to know what we mean by the concept of digital navigators?
I think they'll ask. I mean, it's in the report. The report is dense. It's got a lot of amazing stuff in it. It's very thorough.
All the more reason to call attention to it, and hopefully they'll ask.
Yeah.
I just forgot that was there, so put quotes on that. And especially the concept of, quote, digital navigators, because it's not a common term.
My favorite focus group finding from I couldn't go the entire evening without reference to the election. My favorite focus group finding of independents in late October, when they were asked if they thought Trump was an authoritarian, was, what's an authoritarian?
Trending Google search day before the election. Did Joe Biden drop out?
You're right, I know.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Fake news.
Wait to circle back to turn the digital,
But it's,
Navigator.
my comment supports the point
I was
that
gonna add,
you're
just referencing.
digital
Yeah.
navigators and quote.
Should we capitalize it?
Yes. Because the concept was they're a team.
Mhm.
We're not doing random capitalization like some people.
I did have, I did have the note that we need to capitalize comprehensive plan, however, it is a named thing.
I got it. That was one of the, oh, up here too.
It's in lots of places. And you might want to capitalize element since that's the term used in the comprehensive plan. And that very last one where you just, yeah, right there, recommend element policy goals. There's 12 elements, and
And
that's
Number 2 was.
Are we capitalizing elements?
It's also a proper noun.
Or
These are good. There's nothing I like more than being technically correct. So thank you, Jack. All right, so no goal 8. Or do we want to promote
I'm fine with it.
digital citizenship?
I'm fine with it.
I mean, there's part of me that feels like, yes.
I mean, Frank's the one who brought this point up. Are you satisfied with
I
it?
think highlighting digital navigator. I mean, I think it may be broader than just the digital navigators too. But I'm not sure.
Well, what else would it include?
I think
Incorporating AI into more.
the way I see it, where my reaction to it is same thing you do a public health campaign, right? Public information campaign on any topic of trying to get people to be aware that, you know, the bicyclists now.
I guess I
require
read the
3
digital
feet.
navigate, sorry to interrupt. I guess I read the digital navigator recommendation is going beyond messaging.
No, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, I think-
Actual.
Right, oh, yeah.
But it's also very focused on a specific socioeconomic group demographic, right? It's not broad community engagement. No, that's
it's digital education.
so where I was coming from was like, is there the broader public education goal of don't send money to the Nigerian prince and scam, right? That's a stupid example, but
Actually, there's a section on scams on the police website.
But yeah, but I guess promote digital literacy throughout the county. So
It's citizen education,
Reports,
citizen,
emphasis on digital education, including digital navigators, public awareness campaigns, and technical training,
I don't know about technical training.
or maybe not technical training, but promote broad digital literacy and citizenship in the community. As,
Sometimes people put cybersecurity on that list. You know,
Because-
that's the understanding how to protect your data and not being vulnerable to scams and stuff like that.
That's what the
Yeah, don't use citizenship.
the APS, well, the APS program for the students is digital citizenship. So that's how they're,
And they're part of the community.
Broad digital literacy and
so go back up top.
yes, but the way you have it right there, you're gonna have people who are worried about this whole citizenship thing, thinking that's what you're talking about.
They need to say digital literacy too.
just digital literacy.
Yeah, we don't want them reading Hemingway.
Yeah, I think this is less of a red flag.
Do we need the word broad?
I think we can do without it.
Comprehensive.
Put FDNs, yeah, comprehensive, better than broad ones.
That's nice.
Yeah, I think that's the job.
Okay. Can you go back up top? Thank you. No, all the way up to where we referenced the, there, yep. All right.
One of the things that's missing from this is Appendix 1. And
Yep.
I'm wondering if you've cleaned that up.
I have not, I'm just gonna drop it in.
No, it's kind of, I think it's kind of garbage if you drop it in the way it is. It's not, it was a broad net. It will not make a good point.
What are you referring?
The research appendix that Jackie and Andrea pulled together for us on
Yes.
the comparative research of.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to, and I'm saying it's way too broad.
No, I
It's
remember
not-
what they wrote.
Yeah.
And what is your comment right now, Jackie, about that?
I said I think it's too broad. It's not strategic, and I think this letter is strategic, and that is a very just broad net of stuff.
So you want to pull it? Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that. I said someone should go through it and and make it more strategic. It was really it was a broad review.
So it is,
It duplicates since it goes jurisdiction by jurisdiction, it doesn't give you what's relevant across all those things. I did try to do a summary, and the summary is maybe closer to what you want.
I mean,
But
it's-
Understand what she says.
but the way it is right there, it's just like a hodgepodge of lots of different things in the order of the jurisdictions.
So where do we refer to Appendix 1? And I guess the ultimate question is, should we include Appendix 1?
I mean,
in this letter?
it's
Well, it's right there.
it's a summary.
Appendices.
It's a summary of a bunch of different municipal planning documents that we've pulled together on behalf of the county.
Yeah, I just don't think, I don't think it's not at the same level as these other things.
And where do we refer to it in this?
That's it.
It's right there in that sentence. We have included
It's
3
asking what should
appendices.
This.
That-
We don't reference it. We don't incorporated by reference. It's just, hey, we did this research.
Here's
Here
some-
you go.
Here's some information,
We do not refer to it in the letter?
Just here.
just that it's gonna be
It's
added.
not attached, but you say we have included 3 appendices, but you're not including that.
I'm just gonna drop it in, Jack. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
I know, and I'm saying, don't do that.
Okay.
I'm saying I don't think while there is while we did learn things that should go in that place, that is a hodgepodge of things. It is not distilled.
Do you want to rewrite it?
Oh, it's a huge job.
So what is your recommendation for this letter?
That we
With
exclude it?
respect to that research?
Well, nobody else reviewed it and looked at it. I mean, the 2 of us worked on it, and what you said was this is good enough without honing it. But then if you now want to use it for this, it's not good enough. That's what I'm saying. It was good enough as background information for the committee, yes. If you want to pull out the top things from it, I don't know, is Andrea on?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm here. We can,
What do you think? What do you think?
I mean, if we're gonna use it, we need to clean it up, cause it's.
That's what I'm saying. It's not ready for prime time.
Get this letter in.
I don't know.
How much
Later
time
that-
do you think we/you would need to clean it up?
Andrea?
I mean, what are we trying to say in there?
Yeah, and if we were to undertake
Take all
that,
stuff
then
in there?
presumably we would want to review it. So this would be a pretty long process.
Right,
So
It's
when.
not a quick turnaround because we'd have to do it, you'd have to review it. And,
So-
then you're gonna want to make it as tight as the letter that we've spent all this time on.
Give me a second. I do not want to make it as tight as a letter. On previous issues, I have been asked, who else is doing this? Right? I have been asked on previous issues, not this one. Who else is doing this? Right? Previous recommendations. Who else is doing this?
You've been asked by whom?
By board liaisons. Right? So we have a list now of other people who have comprehensive plan elements or municipal planning documents dealing with digital planning, broadband from the rest of Virginia, as well as municipal governments. We have links to those documents. We have gathered it all in one nice, easy to reference place. I don't think anyone is going to be hung up about the fact that it's not an advocacy document. It's a research appendix. It's a compilation.
Well, even so, it needs an editor.
Okay. If that's,
It's different fonts and different indentations. We threw it in.
do you want to edit it?
I mean, we can edit it.
I mean, if you just want to do formatting, I think that's,
Andrea, if you take the lead, I will help, but right now I'm kind of overwhelmed. That's why, I mean, yes, I think it needs to be done and I would be embarrassed to have it circulated in its current form.
God,
But
Help you. Okay. I'll help you.
We'll edit it.
done. All right. We have not gotten a chance to talk about the changes to item 3.
No, we have.
We've got 22 minutes left before the end of the meeting. Appendix 3, implications for broadband study, future for Connect Arlington. What I did here was change the recommendation or the one potential option that we had last time into following questions warrant further study. And the model that I had thrown out there last time has one question that requires further study. I think in talking with Mr. Adelstein, he had thrown out a couple other ideas for how the community might leverage Connect Arlington. So these were 2 other ideas that I came up with as previous examples of small projects that might be able to be scaled. And I didn't get around to adding a thought that I had on my drive over here, which was these are just.
Can we hold off on this letter that needs to be December, or January? Because I'd like time to read what you wrote. I haven't, I scanned it. Phrase. Skimmed it before the meeting began, but I really haven't had a chance to absorb it. And it looks very rich.
Sure,
I would like a chance to read it.
sure. So let's scan it here and then we'll table it until December. Got it.
Sounds good. So if you can send us all a copy of this.
I will
as-
send it.
As it is.
Send the updated version, but these were in the last version, so.
Right.
I changed it to, as opposed to a recommendation for a model, right? I put up top really the consideration, which wasn't addressed by the study, which is my assumption, I think it's a reasonable one. The ability to compete with the commercial providers is likely dependent on the physical proximity of the Connect Arlington infrastructure to potential customers, right? From the market data, it really looks like the only way a municipal broadband service provider that utilize Connect Arlington infrastructure as its backbone would only really be able to beat out other commercial service providers if they happen to have fiber physically closer to the customer. And the broadband study didn't look at the physical infrastructure
That's a
layout
good point.
of the service providers. So we have no idea, right? So it's plausible that a municipal broadband provider with Connect Arlington as its backbone and the county government and schools as anchor tenants could win a small share of commercial customers and that over time could help close the digital divide and reduce the growth in price for access.
So when Libby sees this and says, yeah, this does warrant further study, who should do the study?
Except she's about to turn them off.
I know that.
That
That's
is,
my, that's
that
my,
is an operational question.
well, don't you think we should make a little recommendation on that score?
Who should do the study? No, I don't think we should make a recommendation on that at all. I think that's well outside of our purview. I think if they want to study it, county would issue an RFP or direct it to staff to study.
Okay.
They issued an RFP for the first study.
But you're not suggesting to reconvene the broadband study.
I think that contract is done. So
So it would be a new
it
RFP,
would be a new effort.
a new effort.
They might have it in-house.
Either by Norin and his crowd or by his shop.
They might hire consultants. That is not for us to opine on really. The other model that came out recently was the JBG dark fiber lease. I think one of the things I took away from our conversation with Dr. Clark was don't have innovation zones, right? The innovation zone never expands and just exacerbates existing inequities. Treat it like you would as basic infrastructure. So, but if the model of leasing to an entity is able to provide that kind of service delivery inside a particular geographic area, why can't we do that everywhere else?
The whole county is the innovations,
Yeah.
except not as an innovation zone, the way she wrote about it, which is
Right.
a corporate driven.
This
Right.
is now just the baseline, right? So,
Yeah, that's a good point, John.
right? And then, three, one of the first.
Wait, I did have something else on one.
Sure.
I think it needs a sentence at the end that says, something like, that this would require further study. I mean, it's
So
true, we can't recommend and we shouldn't be recommending who does it, but it's not clear that would be, yes.
So right at the top of all three of these questions, it's these questions
To,
warrant further study.
yeah, I'm
My
a
family's-
family.
So they are,
Okay,
they are the
all right,
specific
so this
questions.
applies to all of them.
Yeah, it applies to all of them. It's a question and then context for the question and why we're asking it.
Okay, great, thank you.
I can.
And then one of the first projects that I got involved with the Tech Commission was the Barcroft Apartments. county use Connect Arlington infrastructure to offer free broadband to the residents of the Barcroft Department, or sorry, the broadband, the Arlington Mill residences. That was the first one. So there's, housing providers, projects like the Barcroft Apartments, the largest affordable housing project in Arlington history, and other service providers like nonprofit service providers like Arlington Free Clinic or any of the numerous other human service providers would all benefit from reduced network access. What are the barriers to scaling up projects like those, right? We haven't seen another one. I'm sure there are barriers, but I don't know what they are and how.
So Arlington Mill, which as I understand it was completed in 2017, that's still a gem. That's a prototype for us to consider.
I don't know. They haven't done any more.
So we don't know what metrics were used.
Warrants further study.
Warrants further study.
Warrants transparency.
Right. These are three different models, right?
Yeah.
Municipal service provider contracting with a for-profit entity to essentially provide a network inside a geographic region, or doing project by project with specific human service providers to target digital divide gaps, right?
Can we reserve some time for the legislative?
Oh, I guess.
It'll be it's a pass.
So,
No, in other words, I still
yes.
back to my point. I'm not done with
Yes.
this. I'd like to
so we'll
reconsider it in December.
table this conversation. I think we made a tremendous amount of progress tonight. So thank you all for the conversation. I'll send out the updated draft of this later this evening. And we'll take all comments and feedback on it prior to December.
This will be our parting gift.
And who was it that said they were going to do the editing for item 1? Was that Andrea said she would do it? Okay.
And Mike.
And Mike, okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Oh, we have to do the virtual meetings post.
Oh, do we even have the virtual meetings policy?
We do.
Can we get a copy of the virtual meetings policy distributed to everybody before December so that we could adopt it in December?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any other DTS updates?
Just one quick one. We launched a digital equity initiative website on our site. And it has a couple of things, certainly has the broadband study posted there, but also a lot of information about trying to start a newsletter. So you can subscribe to that now. There's a digital equity newsletter on
This on
that
the
site.
county site.
If you just search Digital Equity Initiative, you'll get to that site.
Great.
And they are starting to recruit for the Digital Equity Coalition to get a group of advisors together to strategically plan how we can meet some of the recommendations of the broadband study. So that work is moving forward.
Great.
That's all from DTS tonight.
Great. That's great to hear.
Legislative update, Frank.
All right. I understand there was an election earlier this week. As a result, President-elect Trump is going to designate current FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr to be chairman of the Federal Communications Commission in the new administration. He has some issues that he's been a strong advocate for using the FCC for national security purposes. The Huawei, getting Huawei equipment out of U.S. telecom networks.
Which can be found in
Banning
Chatcom Communications Project 2025, which.
Right, yes, which he is the only government official to have actually written a chapter in Project 2025. And let's see what else.
That's where we are.
And also, he's been a strong critic of censorship on digital platforms, it's Facebook. And that stuff. So really, even though I'm not sure where the FCC's jurisdiction is. Anyway.
I guess we're fine.
We'll find out. To be, and kind of related, the House Energy and Commerce Committee Chair Kathy McMorris Rogers and Senate Commerce Committee Ranking Member Ted Cruz called upon the SEC to refrain from enacting any rules that could only pass on party line votes consistent with past presidential debates. Kind of been a thing that's gone last couple of transitions, because basically we're going to have once Brendan Carr gets, so we have 5 FCC commissioners. The current chair, Jessica Rosenworcel, by tradition steps down as chair and as a commissioner by inauguration, but her term goes through, I think, June of next year, so she could stay on. And then there would be no Republican majority. So, but since the chair controls the agenda, nothing that was partisan would move. So that we'll have to wait and see what happens on that. I had reported on a $200 million pilot program for schools and libraries to get subsidized cybersecurity services and equipment. Anyhow, the FCC received 2,734 applications requesting a total of $3.7 billion from schools and libraries requesting the funding from that program. So we'll see. So not everybody's going to get money, not as much as they have requested. The Biden administration has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to overrule a lower court and reinstate the funding mechanism for the Universal Service Fund, which distributes around $2 billion annually under E-rate program for connecting schools and libraries to the internet.
And where is Project 2025 on that?
I'm sure they probably don't like USF. The lower court actually found that it was unconstitutional tax. Basically you pay on your telephone bill. It's actually been a growing percentage. Do you know?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. It's something like 37%.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So,
Of everyone's telephone
on bill.
Of course, who pays the landline telephone bill?
Anymore.
Oh, it's only landline.
Well,
Is
but
it-
there have been proposals to add it to broadband, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
It is a mess.
Yeah.
What is 20?
I'm not sure.
I'm happy to say I haven't read Project 2025, so I actually don't know. If
Yeah, I don't know what it's.
US.
I don't know what Brendan Carr, if he said
Well,
it.
since Biden is for it, do you think the prospects for that funding
Not
continuing
good.
not robust?
Not really. Although it's possible Congress may do something to clean it up. Because I think, it doesn't seem that like those type, although it had a long history of bipartisan support, but I'm not sure in the current environment that will be the case.
While we've been
To be-
sitting here,
To be continued.
another California race was called.
Off topic.
It is. I move to adjourn.
Anything for the good of the order? I'll just say a reminder, December is virtual, all virtual.
It is.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
You too.
Yes. Yeah, Thanksgiving to all.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, folks. We will see you in a month,
Virtually.
virtually. Hi, Jackie.
Take care.